Listen for a moment last and hear me tell my tale. How o'er the seas from England's shore I was condemned to sail. The jury found me guilty, sir, and said the judge, said he, for life, Jim Jones, I sentence you across the stormy sea.
Welcome to Newcastle Family History Society podcasts. The Newcastle Family History Society, located on Awabakal land in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, provides support for those interested in family history. Mel Woodford's series Felonious Females continues with a follow-on story with researcher and member Robyn Jeffriess about convict Catherine Kent.
Welcome, Robyn. In a previous podcast, you told us of the interesting life of Sophia Lovell, who, with her husband Alexander Munro, took into their care Harriet, the daughter of Catherine Kent. But Catherine's story is a fascinating one too.
Yes, Mel, and this is quite a sad story. Catherine Kent, at 16 years of age and a needlewoman, was on the 26th of January 1833 charged with shoplifting in Dublin. She was convicted at Dublin City that same year and transported for 7 years on the Andromeda 2-3. From the records, Catherine was described as 5 foot 2 inches tall, with a dark, freckled complexion and a mole on her left cheek.
Quite small in stature then, and still very young. So, what was the journey to New South Wales like?
Well, the Andromeda set sail from Cork on the 25th of May 1834 with 175 female prisoners on board. There were some free women and children on board also. The surgeon was Henry Kelsall, and he kept a medical journal on the trip. Many suffered with catarrh problems for the first 3 weeks. These complaints started to disappear when the climate became warmer. Half a pint of lemonade, which is a little over a cup, was served daily to the prisoners and the free people, which was much enjoyed, and lime juice, believed to help in the prevention of scurvy, was given until they passed the Cape of Good Hope. As the weather became colder, a gill of wine, which is a little over half a cup, was given each day to every individual. Occasionally, preserved soup was given to the women who were suckling.
I expect the lemonade was just water, lemon juice and some sugar, not what we have today. What were the weather conditions like along the voyage?
Well, the passage from Cape towards Bass Strait was very boisterous, with a continual storm nearly the whole way. The ship was very leaky, and the lower deck was nearly always afloat. With all of this, the women were still generally healthy. Only 2 women and a child died on the trip, and another was sent to hospital on arrival. Catherine doesn't appear on the surgeon's sick list. The Andromeda arrived in Sydney on the 17th of September 1834, after 115 days at sea.
That's a long time at sea, nearly 4 months. It's remarkable that so many arrived relatively well and healthy, perhaps due to the vigilance of the surgeon. What happened to Catherine after she arrived?
On the 11th of November 1834, she was sent to Newcastle Jail for 14 days and from there to government service. Newcastle was closed as a penal settlement in 1823, and the jail was then used to hold male and female convicts transferred from Sydney for assignment with settlers in the Hunter Valley. After the riot at the Parramatta Female Factory in 1831, the women involved were sent to Newcastle Jail, and it was managed as part of the jail and judicial branch of the colony. From 1832, it was used for women from the Parramatta Female Factory or consignments of newly arrived convicts who were sent there regularly for assignment among settlers of the Hunter Valley.
So, was Catherine assigned to anyone in the Hunter Valley?
Yes, she was assigned to William Harper at Oswald, his property near Singleton, on the 23rd of January 1835. William came from Scotland, aged 29, as a surveyor with recommendations from Lord Bathurst and Sir John Oswald. William, his wife also called Catherine, and young family, first went to Hobart, arriving on the 5th of May 1821. His request for a land grant was accepted in September of 1821. He was granted 700 acres and 3 convict servants, and he marked out land in the prospect area. William must also have acquired land near Singleton, which he called Oswald. He was assistant to the Surveyor General and retired in 1826, sold all his surveying equipment to the government in 1831 and moved to Oswald. William went blind, so it is expected that his eyesight could have been failing, and this was the reason for his early retirement. The Harper family had grown, and this was probably why Catherine Kent was needed. William Harper died in 1836.
An unmarried female convict being pregnant was considered an offence, which generally carried with it a period of time in the jail or female factory. Was this the case with Catherine?
We're not exactly sure why, but Catherine was admitted to Newcastle Jail on the 3rd of March 1835 from Maitland under sentence of 14 days in the cells and to be returned to government service. Going by the date of Harriet's birth, the 26th of March 1835, she would have been heavily pregnant.
What then happened to Catherine?
Well, next, Catherine was reassigned to Walter Rotten at Maitland. Walter arrived in Patrick's Plains in approximately 1823 or 1824, settled at Coombu, and then moved to Maitland between 1830 and 1835. On his return to Singleton, he became an innkeeper and auctioneer. In trouble again, Catherine was admitted to Newcastle Jail on the 23rd of April 1835 under sentence of 28 days in the cells and to be returned to government service. By this time, she surely would have had baby Harriet with her. It appears she was then assigned to John Brown of Patrick's Plains on the 18th of June 1835 before being sent to Newcastle Jail on the 25th of July for another 14 days.
Do we know anything about John Brown, Robyn?
From what has been written about John Brown and the help he gave Alexander Munro, it appears he was a good man. Reports in various newspapers of the day show him to be a prominent citizen and landowner in the Patrick's Plains district. While becoming a successful businessman, magistrate and councillor, he was also a philanthropist.
Marrying was one way that a female convict could escape the system. If she was fortunate, it was possible to have a better life. This was the next phase in Catherine's life, wasn't it, Robyn?
That's right. On the 5th of August 1835, permission to marry was given to Catherine, aged 17, and on a bond, and Thomas Phillips, aged 29. Thomas had been sentenced to 14 years and arrived on the England 1 from London on the 18th of September 1826. He now held a ticket of leave. She was discharged from jail for her marriage at Christchurch, Newcastle. Records show that Thomas Phillips, 29, of Darlington Parish, Singleton, married Catherine Kent, 17, of Newcastle Parish, on the 24th of August 1835 by Reverend Wilton, with witnesses James Dewell and Sarah Mee. So, at 17 years of age, Catherine had been sent from her home of birth, Ireland, to an unknown country. She had been in and out of jail, assigned to 3 different families, had a daughter, and then married. What her treatment was like, we don't know. And we also don't know about her behaviour.
That's quite a lot for someone to have experienced at such a young age. Robyn, Can you tell us about Catherine's life after she married Thomas?
Thomas Phillips was a shoemaker by this time, and their family was already started with Harriet, baptised on the 17th of July 1836 at Patrick's Plains. Harriet was not the natural daughter of Thomas, as it appears Catherine was most likely pregnant when she arrived in Australia, though Thomas is named as her father on the baptism records. Catherine and Thomas had a son, also named Thomas, born in 1838, followed by a daughter, Mary Ann, in 1839. Records state that in 1837, Catherine, at 18 years of age, was assigned to her husband.
Catherine and Thomas were not destined to have very many years together. What happened, Robyn?
Tragedy struck the family on the 5th of April 1840. There were many reports in the newspapers of the death of Catherine by burning. From these reports, we learn that Catherine Phillips was thrown into a fire burning in the house she was visiting. She was drinking with Catherine Wapshott, née Byrne, who came per the age at 1830, and her husband at their house when an argument erupted over Catherine Wapshott striking one of Catherine Phillips' children. From the evidence given, the deceased had not been home for 2 days. The prisoner, Catherine Wapshott, it was suggested, had possibly tried to push the deceased out of the house, but she fell onto the fire. The prisoner's husband, William Wapshott, went to get Thomas Phillips, who found his wife badly burnt under some bushes, and took her home. Medical assistance was called some days later, and Catherine was able to give the police a statement. After a number of days, Catherine Kent died on the 18th of April 1840, aged about 23 years. We are unable to establish a final resting place for Catherine, but her husband Thomas is buried in Whittingham Cemetery. He died on the 1st of August 1866, 26 years after Catherine.
Was Catherine Wapshott ever convicted over Catherine Kent's death?
Yes, Catherine Byrne Wapshott was found guilty of manslaughter of Catherine Kent Phillips, as reported in the Sydney Monitor and Commercial Advertiser of the 10th of November 1840. It was stated during the court proceedings that neither woman were temperate. Catherine Wapshott was sentenced to 3 years hard labour at the Parramatta Female Factory.
What happened to the rest of the family?
What happened to the 2 younger Phillips children after their mother died is unknown. They may have remained living with their father. Harriet, however, was a different story. She was unofficially adopted by Sophia Lovell, who had arrived as a convict on board the Diana in 1833 and was now married to Alexander Munro. Alexander had arrived as a convict on the York, but by this time was a well-respected landowner, businessman, later to become Mayor of Singleton, who had earlier also been assigned to John Brown. There is a strong possibility that Alexander knew Catherine and baby Harriet during their assignments. I suspect this may have been the connection for Sophia and Alexander rearing Harriet as their daughter.
Thank you, Robyn, so much for taking us through this sad story of the life of Catherine Kent. Catherine, like so many other female convicts, did not have an easy life and died young. She did, however, have 3 children. Her first child, Harriet, had a comfortable life with Sophia and Alexander Munro, and went on to marry Walter Cousins and have a family of her own, giving birth to 7 grandchildren of Catherine. Mary Ann Phillips, Catherine's 3rd child, married George Lloyd and had 9 children, many remaining in the Hunter Valley. It appears that Thomas Phillips, Catherine's 2nd child, may also have married and had children. Catherine's legacy lives on through her many descendants.
The lives of the female convicts sent to Newcastle and the Hunter varied considerably. Some found opportunities to live a long, happy and prosperous life. Others, like Catherine Kent, were not so fortunate. There are many stories still to be told, so why not follow us on your chosen listening platform? And if you would like to hear more of Catherine's daughter Harriet, you can listen to the episode on Sophia Lovell on Newcastle Family History Society podcasts.
Listen for a